If there's one thing you can do, it's trust.
You see what I did?
However, I don't care right now.
I extended it all the way to the top.
You have your phone out and yes,
Yeah.
class.
You know what that means?
Is he recording?
Yeah, you know
He's
how
live, bro.
Do the intro.
You won't. Zach.
Wait, what's phone is that?
That's
You
what's
actually,
amazing.
he actually did this. He actually stole my phone.
It was out. It was out.
It was out, Courtney.
Listen, can I please get that?
Never take your phone out.
Actually put my phone
outside.
Yeah.
Courtney, you're out.
You can't get that anymore.
It's
Zach.
okay, you can watch it in the mirror.
I can
Yeah.
see it.
All right, so
Courtney, I got you. I'm your friend.
hey, no, go outside.
Listen, do I really have to go outside to get that?
Yeah, go outside get that. I don't know who to give you this.
Wait.
Why do you even keep his headphones in too?
For real.
Okay, guys, go take care of your stuff. All right, so get your notes out. We're gonna cover whatever the rest of this.
Are you gonna do the intro?
What was the quiz question yesterday?
Oh, it's like, I don't know, you should show us.
There was 2 over crazy.
2 over square root of x. Okay.
Hey.
4 over square root of x.
Yeah, 4 over 2.
What about you guys?
Hey, can you close the window?
All right, so we talked about the power rule, right? What's a power rule? What's a constant? What's a constant rule?
Constant equals 0.
That's gonna be 0, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just a reminder. E is a constant. I is imaginary number, doesn't count. Pi is a constant. So in this case, any number is a constant. So this is a d to the dx of x to the n is equal to n x to the n minus 1. Where's Ariana? She's always skipping. She is?
She didn't show up today.
Okay. So remember the quiz question. The quiz question says f of x is equal to, I think it's 4 over square root of x. And then we say, hey, let's take a derivative of this. But you say, okay, well, we can use definition of derivative. But now, after that quiz, maybe on the test I'm only gonna ask you once how to find a derivative of something using definition of derivative. I will tell you that specifically. Otherwise, you're gonna be using this rule. Unless I told you says use definition of derivative, from now on you're gonna be using the new rule. But let's compare both rules. If I compare the both rules, let's say f prime of x is equal to 4 over square root of x plus h minus 4 over square root of x all over h when limit h is close to 0. And let's look at how much work I have to assume. So let's say it's times by common denominator, right? Did you guys do that? So I need to have square root of x over square root of x. So I'm gonna have square root of x here, and here I need a what? Square root of x plus h over square root of x plus h. And just by this is a lot of work already. And then you had to multiply by the conjugate from the top. So it's gonna be what? 4 square root of x plus 4 square root of x plus h all over 4 square root of x plus 4 square root of x plus h. So that's a lot of work. But regardless, it's not too bad. You say, okay, well, let's just go in to do that. Imagine that I would do this. So I will take this and now multiply it together. So what am I gonna get? 16x, right? And then minus what? 4 parentheses of x plus h, all over, over what? Square root of x times square root of x plus h times by 4 square root of x plus 4 square root of x plus h, right? See how much work that is? H. And this is using definition of derivative. Oh, by the way, majority of you guys did bad on this quiz. H approach 0. So what will happen here? Did I miss something here? I think this is 16, right? That's a 16, sorry. So that's 16. So the 16x minus 16x, that's gonna give you a negative h. And negative h will end up canceling out with square root of x times by square root of x plus h times by 4 square root of x plus 4 square root of x plus h. And then times 1 over h. And then h cancel out. That's going to give you negative 1. Now we're going to plug in 0 for that. So it's limit h is pro 0. And then what happened? Negative 1 over what? Square root of x times square root of x. That's going to be x, right? And that's going to be 4 plus 4 is going to be 8. And times square root of x. Huh? Negative 16? Yep, my bad. So, okay. So that's going to give you negative 2 over x times square root of x. What does that mean? That means negative 2 times x to the 3 over 2, right? Does this understand for you guys? This is x1, this is x1 half, so it's going to add it to be 3 half. So that's my final answer, right? So are we okay here? Now, since we had a power rule, we're no longer using this anymore. Okay? That's the reason why I do this over again, to show you the comparison. You do not do this anymore unless I says use definition of derivative. Okay? So, what does this mean? D to the dx, x to the n equal to nx to the n minus 1. Now you gotta make sure this is a numerator. This is actually over 1. So this is actually over 1. Okay, so you have to make sure that this is over 1. So in order to take a derivative, that x need to be on the numerator. So make sure x to the power n is on numerator. Okay, on numerator. Not only on numerator, it has to be in term of fractions. It has to be in term of fractions or integers. So it cannot be radicals. You cannot change a radical. So let's talk about things that we know. A couple things. We know the algebra 1 rules. So algebra rules has a to the n times a to the m equal to a to the n plus n. Do you guys know that?
Yeah.
Which is I use it right here. 1 plus 1 half is 3 over 2. Yeah.
The camera can't see what you did on the bottom.
All the way on the bottom.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can see. It's just covered by this stuff. Okay, so second one is gonna be a to the m over a to the n equal to a to the m minus n. We're gonna keep on coming back to this rule because this is pre-algebra, but this should be ingrained in your head. So like a to the negative n equal to 1 over a to the n, or 1 over a to the negative n equal to what? A to the n over 1. Are you guys lost? Fourth rule says a to the m times n is equal to a to the n times n. The fifth rule, a to the 0 is equal to 1. Sixth rule is a to the n m is equal to a to the m over n. So I will say this rule is going to use it all the time. This rule is going to use all the time. This rule is going to use all the time. This rule is going to use all the time. Okay, so pretty much very often that we're going to use all this rule. So let's try it. So we're going to say f of x, we're going to use the short way. So 4 over square root x, right? Is this a radical? Do I like radicals? No. I'm gonna go through this process called rewrite. Okay? I'll rewrite this. So rewrite.
Are we allowed to have exponents, or like, you know how we can't have radicals, we can't have exponents either?
You can have exponents. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's gonna be what? 4 over x to the 1/2, right? Are we good? Going too fast? Now, the rule, in order the rule to apply, I need to make sure that x is on numerator. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's equal to 4x. Well, we're gonna use which rule? Negative exponent rule. So look, I'm going from here to here. Does that make sense? From x to 1/2, if I move up, then it's gonna be x to the negative 1/2. So now I have a new function, 4x to the negative 1/2. We say, okay, now I can take a derivative. F derivative, well, basically just this 4 is going to keep there. The 4 is always there, never go away. That negative 1/2 is going to drop down. And x to the negative 1/2, subtract 1. So that's equal to what? Negative 2. X, well, this is common denominator, should be negative 3/2. You should not need to use common denominator anymore. You should be smart enough to figure out negative 1/2 minus 1 is negative 3/2. And then you can say that's also equal to negative 2 over x to the 3 over 2. You can even rewrite it, so all those answers are equivalent, or negative 2 over square root of x3, which is, it's exactly like this. Think how much work I did as opposed to this. Do you want to do this from now on? No. Unless I say using definition derivative. Yes?
Why did we learn the other one? Like, when are we getting, when do we use the left one?
Okay, good question. Okay, so I'm glad you asked that, because I have it in place. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you is I'm going to challenge you to solve this problem. Okay, using what you learned today, very important, use what you learned today, and use what you learned last week when the definition of derivative. I'm going to ask you to find the limits. H approach 0, okay, of f, no, sorry, not f, for x plus h to the 1/3 minus x to the 1/3 all over h. I want you to find the answer for this. Okay, but I'll give you a hint. If you spend writing past 15 seconds, if you write down stuff, sharing out the work, do it in 15 seconds. If you do it within 15 seconds, more likely you get a right answer. If you get past 15 seconds, that's where you get a wrong answer. So that makes you, like, you had to think about math instead of doing math. So I'll challenge you. I'll give you 2 minutes to get this problem done. And remember, if you're writing more than 20 seconds, more likely you have wrong answer.
Mr. Yeah, just like real quick, the f prime thing right there. I don't remember how you get like the x next to the 4 negative 1 over 2.
Here? This one?
Yeah. not that one, the X next to that.
Here?
No, next to it, not below it.
The X has always been there.
Oh, wait, then where's the negative 1/2 come from?
This is the n. Remember, the n is gonna drop down. So here, this n is gonna drop in the front, right? And then n is gonna subtract 1. So what happened is a f of x of 4x to the negative 1/2. This 1/2 is gonna be placed in the front.
Okay, because it gets dropped down.
Yes, and then that x, the power is gonna be subtract 1, according to n minus 1.
Okay.
Do you wanna do it this way, or you wanna do it this way?
Probably that way.
Yeah. So make sure you understand that. And as I say, find the definition of derivative. But now, this is a question that you should think about. How would you do this question? You only spend 15 seconds to write down this, and you get an answer. Anthony, figure out yourself.
I'm asking if you.
Huh?
I got an answer, but I don't.
You got an answer, okay.
I'm not sure.
You gotta be sure.
Well, I think I'm right. So I can bring it because it's.
So if you spend more than 15 seconds writing, more likely you did it wrong. Anna, did you get it? You got it? Okay. Nicholas, would you got it? Okay, good. You all get an answer. Jose? No?
Probably not.
Gianfranco?
Nope.
David? No? Nicole? Yes? Zachary?
I've yet to put my pencil on this paper.
So you still have that 15 seconds regardless.
Yeah, you still have 20 seconds.
Right here? Nope. Nope. Andres?
I think so.
Gianfranco teach you?
No, he just told me that I'm trying to learn it.
Okay.
You did.
And Enja?
When I was.
Somewhat?
When I was here earlier.
Jonathan?
He told me. do
You
that.
think? Suha?
They
I
said,
got an
it's
answer.
like, don't.
You got an answer?
I don't know, it's not right probably.
It's not right probably. Courtney?
Now I think I understand what you meant.
What's the answer? Like, I wanna know.
So I.
Wait,
Okay,
wait a minute, wait a minute.
Give us- give
Isn't it just
How f of x is equal to this?
Matthew, you got it?
I think I'm on track, but I don't know.
So,
Okay. So the answer is
maybe one.
No, wait.
1/3 x to the negative 2/3 power.
Wait, say that again.
Oh my god.
Wait,
But
but
they
they-
I got that.
I,
Wait, say that again.
Is
I
it
got
cool-
it.
Is it because f of x is
I have a
x?
brain.
You do have a brain, yes. So you want to think about it. So remember, this is some type of, this one is definition of derivative, right? You say x plus h, x, then this some type of f prime of x, right? Some type of f of x. But
Oh my god.
if I see what is my f of x,
It's one.
X whatever.
It's a cube.
if you look at here, is a plug in x to the 1/3, plug in x to 1/3, which this one is definition of derivative. F prime of x is equal to limit h is pro 0, f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. Now, you see here, there's an f of x right here,
Okay.
right? If I were to take a derivative, what would I get? Well, derivative, just using the
Whatever you x,
1/3 x to the 1/3 minus 1, right? So it's equal to 1/3 x to the negative 2/3, and that's my answer here.
So you don't have to change, because I ended up putting the x down.
That's what I.
I'll leave it
I
like
had the
that.
X on this too.
It doesn't matter. I mean, get this point is the answer is answer. Because if the answer is, eventually you find the equation tangent line, you're gonna plug in the x into there and see what happens.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, so Mr.
I got
That's
that.
crazy. The equation doesn't have h in it, like, you're not, nothing to do with h.
Huh?
So like the new derivative doesn't have anything to do with h.
And nothing to do with h because you have power rule. Power rule is gonna take you from here to here within one step. But why should we do that? If we know math is about what's the fastest way to get an answer and the most efficient way to get an answer, not the most complicated answer. Now, why do we do this? To train your algebra skill, to train your keeping things in order, keeping things that don't mess up. Because sometimes you're gonna have to work like this, a lot of questions, you have to be able to keep a track of things, which is all you guys fail. That's the sad thing is because those are things that is very important that you guys should keep while you are in pre-calculus. Okay? You guys should have the strong algebra skills to maintain that. Are we okay here?
No.
Yes.
So would it not work using definition of derivative, or would it just take too long?
Actually, there was. I don't think there's a way to do it. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think there's a way to do it. Because if this is 1/2 power, it's doable. But if it's a 1/3 power, it can't really do conjugate because conjugate is a. You can do 2/3 power, extra 2/3 power on the other side, but you can, yeah, you can get kind of messy. I don't know. You can get extra 2/3 on the other side and 2/3 to make that 1, but I don't know if that's I don't know if that's gonna go anywhere either. So it's possible. I didn't think about it. I never bothered with it because I don't need it. Question about this part.
I got positive for my exponent.
Okay, so now we're gonna learn how to take a derivative. So let's take a derivative following equation. F of x equal to 6x to the third. What is my derivative? You should be able to do it in your head. Don't shout it, don't shout it, don't shout it, because you should be able to do it in your head. So this one is kind of easy, right? Yes.
18x to the power of -3.
What?
No.
It's 18x
Right here,
squared.
you're almost there.
You call it quote.
It's 18x squared.
Wait,
It's
18
just minus 1.
Wait, why?
No.
Oh, no,
Right
no,
there.
no, no,
I'm
it's,
saying
oh, no,
the
it's
thing there.
because I dropped 3 and I multiplied it by 6.
It's 18x squared.
So you're gonna drop the 3 in the
I
front,
multiplied,
Minus
yeah,
1.
okay.
right? Times x to the 3 minus 1. So that's gonna be 18x to the 2.
How did I get the 3?
I have no idea. Are you on,
Multiply by negative 1.
are you high?
Wait.
I get what you did.
Okay. Okay, so this one's gonna be kind of hard because 3 over x to the 4th power. So how do I take a derivative of this? I'm gonna show you just in case, I don't want you to do it wrong. But I'm gonna show you first before you start messing up. Okay, so I will rewrite this. Rewrite.
So 3x to the negative
So
4.
f of x is equal to what?
3x to the negative 4.
3x to the negative 4. Does that make sense? Is this hard? No, this is algebra. This is not even calculus yet. Now I'm gonna take a derivative, right? Now I take a derivative. See this notation? This is the original function. If I take a derivative, now I can do a power rule. So that's gonna be what? 3 times negative 4 times x to the negative 5. So that's equal to negative 12 x to the what? Negative 5. That's also negative 12 over x to the 5. So that's my final answer.
What can we do?
I mean, you have to understand, either way is,
It was mine.
math is math. This is math is 2 times 3 or 3 times 2 or 6.
10 plus 2.
And 2 plus 10.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you,
Very
Max.
cool. Thank you, Max.
Exactly. So you have to think about math as a representation. This one is it. If you want to find the slope, I can plug in the value to find the slope, and I can find the equation tangent line, right? So much easier compared to before. Take like pages work. And I love to see you guys suffering because you guys are training your algebra skill. Not training anything else is the algebra skill that is more important. Because calculus, mechanical part is algebra. So I can take a strong algebra student, and in the past it's been done before. An algebra 2 student take a BC calc and get a 5. that's, can be done. Okay, so how about this one? How do I take a derivative of this?
Bad.
Ah,
Oh, that's C. Or actually, no.
Rewrite first, make sure the x on numerator before you take a derivative. That could be negative, it's okay. I'll say it's, John Franco is not about doing fast, it's doing right.
Well, I think I got it.
I got it too.
Good for you. Can check each other with the answers.
Oh my god, I got it. Okay. David, you got it?
No. What did you get?
Oh, I wait.
Negative 2x.
What's my first step? Do I take a derivative first step? No.
I didn't simplify.
I need to make sure x is on numerator, right? And I need to make sure there's no radical sign. So definition radical told me what? F of x is equal to 3 over 2 x to the what?
4 3.
4 over 3, thank you. And then I'm gonna change into the numerator, so it'll be 3 over 2 times x to the negative 4 over 3.
Okay, so I did that right.
No, that's just the rewriting part. It has nothing to do with derivative. Now the next thing is says this. Prime, that's equal to 3 over 2, that's in the front, times by negative 4 over 3. Okay? X to the negative 4 over 3
For goodness sake.
minus what? 1.
How did you?
So that's equal to what? This actually comes out pretty nicely. So negative 7 over 3, or negative 2, x to the 7 over 3. You can put it in radical if you want to, just want to be fancy, but I don't want to deal with the radical unless I have to. So that's my final answer.
Very cool.
It's pretty easy. Are we okay here?
Yeah, Mr. Yip, is that 2 also supposed to be dividing the x? Or should it just be dividing the 3?
For me, I just think about 3 over 2 times this. I think about this.
Yeah, I was just making sure I didn't do it wrong.
Okay, so now I want you to realize this difference, okay? This is algebra difference, not the calculus difference. So 1 over 3x to the 1, and the f of x equal to 1 over 3x to the negative 1. And I want you to take a derivative of each. But before that, you want to think about, are those two the same or they're different?
No, you don't do
I remember this at the beginning of pre-calc.
Yeah, this is something I learned. Okay. But Mr. For the previous problem, I did it this way.
Do you get the same answer?
I still got the same answer.
Okay, that's fine. So a lot of you guys don't think about a small detail. It's actually algebra difference. All you guys I can teach calculus in like 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
But the problem is that all your algebra sucks so bad that you need to fine tune it. Okay, you can fine tune it and then you guys are gonna be our expert by end of the year. But this is a problem. That's why I force you to do all the hard stuff to make sure you warm up to that. But after you take a derivative, you find out this is a completely different derivative. Before that, I'm gonna rewrite it, right? So what's my rewrite? Well, this one is 1 over 3 to the negative 1, x to the negative 1. Does that make sense? Because that negative 1 using the power rule over there. And this is f of x is equal to 1 over 3 x. That's already done. And this one is going to be 3x. And this one is what? So the hard work is actually the non-derivative part. Now I'm going to take derivative. Do you see that? That's a very interesting. A lot of you guys don't pay attention to that algebra skill. That algebra skill is very, very important. You know, I almost want to make a t-shirt. I ask people like this, what is the difference of this? You know, this is my favorite question, right? You guys know that. What's the difference between those two? You know, even teacher get it wrong.
I remember.
3 years ago, we have a teacher didn't know the difference. Hopefully now you know.
Wasn't it Sarah Davis?
Senora Davis?
This is on film.
None of
No, David, Senora David, not Sarah Davis.
No, which one here? Do you understand? Now we're gonna take a derivative more combination. So let's look at a combination of derivatives. So now we're gonna take a derivative of this. F of x equal to 3x to the 1/2 minus 2x square root of x plus pi minus 4. I'm gonna take a derivative of this. So that means I'm gonna take a derivative of this. Well, actually, sorry, let me give it 3 amounts.
I was missing.
3 over 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a derivative of this, and take a derivative of this, and take a derivative of this, and take a derivative of this.
Can you change that?
So you can split it, or is it?
yeah.
So when you have multiple terms, just take an individual term.
And then you add them, or you do the sign.
Just sign, yeah, that's it.
That's square root.
Wait,
2 square root of x.
No, like,
what do you mean
after
just
that's
take-
pi.
Huh?
each term.
Plus pi minus 4. Yes.
So do we do one
Oh,
at a
never
time?
mind.
Yeah.
I was
Oh.
supposed to say like combine 3x to 3 over 2 minus 2 and that, but that doesn't make any sense. I thought that was one.
So what's wrong with this equation? This one's in radical, right?
Yeah.
We had to change that first before we do anything. I see something that is odd. I'll change it first. Or I can think of it in my head, that's 1/2. Okay, but here, f of x is equal to 3x to 3 over 2 minus 2x to the 1/2 plus pi minus 4. I'm gonna take a derivative. 3 times 3 over 2, right? X to the what? 1/2 minus 2 times 1/2 times x to the negative half. Okay? Now what's the derivative of pi?
0.
Thank you.
0.
Derivative of 4, derivative of pi, derivative of anything, the constant is going to 0.
Oh, I see.
So that's f prime of x equal to 9 over 2 x to the 1/2 minus what? X to the negative 1/2. You can do this.
How do you get rid of two? Because it's to a negative 1.
Oh, wait, there's more?
Yeah, it's made a negative.
It's like a Billy Mays clip.
It's just cut individual parts. It's gonna take derivative of each individual part, right?
Yep.
Take a derivative here, take a derivative here, take a derivative here, take a derivative here. Okay. 2 other question that you have to worry about derivative goes. This one is gonna be 2x plus 1 to the square. And the next one is also f of x is equal to 4x squared minus x over square root of x. So there's 2 situations. How do I take a derivative of those 2 functions? But we can use power rule, but the only requirement of power rule is like something x, right? Not something parenthesis plus something to the second power. So what would you suggest when you're doing this type of problem? Yes?
You factor it out and then do the individual parts, I don't know.
But I mean, you had the right idea, just the wrong terminology.
Okay, my bad, you, what's the word for when you separate it? Expand.
Distribute,
You just
foil,
foil.
there's so many words that you can
Aluminum, you
do.
aluminum foil it and then you do the individual parts.
Yes, you can do individual part, right? So think about algebra before you start. All this problem is what was algebra? It's not a calculus, it's hard. Okay? Math study have derivative. But so the problem is the algebra part that is getting tripped up to you, because in math study you're not gonna see this derivative like this. You're gonna see derivative like this, you're not gonna see derivative like this. Because the extensive of math study is not gonna require student to understand the basic algebra. Okay? It's just like, okay, we just teach you this. And everybody can do that, and they can find a tangent line, they can find the stationary points or whatever, but it does not matter. So this one you can expand just like what he suggested. So it's gonna be 4x squared, so don't kill a puppy when you expand this, plus 4x plus 1. I know you guys wanna kill the puppy. So f prime of x is equal to ax plus 4. So I get a habit of this is normal equation, and I write down the derivative, because some people think that is the derivative, especially this one. What would you suggest to do this one?
Where are you at?
First deal with the following one.
What?
In parentheses and then distribute x 1 over 2. X to the 1 half.
When you're conjugating,
Are
you
you
can find,
splitting
wait,
it?
can't you find that?
We're splitting it up.
Yes. You can split it. Remember on the question on the review sheet, right? I give you like something like this, right?
Like that one.
Over like 12xy, right? Remember when I give you a review sheet like this? What did I want you to do? I said split them. You're gonna use it later. And that's why I'm using this. I'm kind of set up a review sheet to where you're gonna be using it here. I know your things is fine, but a lot of time it's much easier to look at this way. So 4x squared over square root of x, well,
1 over 2.
I don't like that. I'm gonna say 1 over 2, and then minus x over x to the 1/2. Do you see that? And just the algebra, I'm simplifying. It's not a calculus. So that's gonna be 4x to the 3 over 2 minus x to the 1/2. Did I take a derivative yet?
No.
So that's why I write down f of x, not rewriting part. Now I write the next line, what's my derivative? And you follow me?
Yeah.
Okay, so f prime of x, that's equal to 4 times 3 over 2 times x to the 1/2 minus 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. So that's equal to 6x to the 3/2, no 1/2, sorry. 1/2 minus 1 over 2 square root of x. And if I like just keep the x 1/2 here. I don't like to do radical, but if you want to do radical, it's going to be 6 square root of x minus 1 over 2 square root of x. So that's the derivative. Let's just talk about all the derivatives that can possibly be. Do you guys know how to find the equation tangent line and normal line? What is tangent line?
Same slate.
The 1 point, right? So what if I ask you, what your homework they give you x and y, which is nice. But I don't. If I give you on a test, I will not give you y point. I will ask you to go for it. Go look for it. So can you find the equation of tangent line of this? Okay, so find f prime of x, b find tangent line at x equal to 4, and the c find normal line at x equal to 4. So pretty much you're gonna have tangent line and normal line all the time. You have to understand what is tangent line, what's normal line. What's normal line again? Perpendicular line, which is mathematically is the opposite reciprocal. Opposite reciprocal, negative reciprocal. Or in pre-calc, we actually have a different terminology. With a vector, it's called orthogonal. Okay, so those are the words that you should know when you go into calculus 3. Okay, normal, orthogonal, perpendicular, they all mean the same exact thing. So let's see if you can find the did you simplify completely? Did you take a derivative completely? And then the last question of your homework today is I want you to think about. I know you cannot do the last question, but if you want to get a 5 on AP exam, I challenge you to think about the last question of your homework. I posted it already. About an hour ago. So the last question is very challenging. So those of you guys who want to get a 5, you want to look for, hey, can I think like a 5 student? Yes, Nicole. Can I think like a 5 student?
6.
Do 6. The last question is very important for you to understand how math works. And even understanding the question is kind of difficult. I think a lot of times people find it hard is, you know, they cannot do it. On your notes, I need you to add one more thing though. Okay? Horizontal tangent. What does horizontal tangent mean? That means slope is equal to what? Equal to 0, right? Or the derivative. This is very important. I'm gonna ask horizontal tangent all the time. AP exam is gonna ask you horizontal tangent. So write down horizontal tangent is equal to slope equal to 0. Or slope is 0, sorry. Is 0, which is equal to derivative. 0 is equal to the derivative, right? So that you're gonna need it for your some of your homework question. It says finding horizontal tangent. You have to figure out how to do it. Okay, so finding horizontal tangent is very important. So make sure you write that down. Does everybody write it down? Horizontal tangent is derivative equal to 0. Derivative equal to 0. Another way is just derivative f prime of x is equal to 0. You can solve for that x. And the rest of them is algebra. You guys are algebra improve a little bit. This class is gonna be a lot easier. And you guys are gonna see a lot of algebra.
I think I have the answer.
Okay, make sure you do it accurately.
Good afternoon, Bears. I have a couple of great answers for you.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do it, okay?
Planning for homecoming for you. Must
So I'm gonna rewrite as 2x to the 1/2. Can I do that? Minus x to the 3/2. If I take a derivative, what am I gonna get? 2 times 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 minus what? 3 over 2 x to the 1/2, right? So f prime of x is equal to x to the 1/2. Negative 1/2 minus 3 over 2 x to the 1/2. Now equation of tangent line is y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. So I'm going to find out the x value. I have an x equal to 4. What is f of 4? It's 2 times 4 minus 16 all over square root of 4. So that's equal to 8 minus 16 over 2, right? Negative 8 over 2. Negative 4, right? Did I do it right?
Yes.
Okay, so negative 4 is my y value, not a slope. So this one is going to where? Y1. The x is going from here. Now, what is my derivative? If I plug in 4 into this, so it's equal to 4 to the negative 1/2 minus 3/2 to the 4 to the 1/2. So this one is, I think, 1/2, I believe, right? Minus 3/2 is 2, so it's 3. So that's equal to what? -5/2?
Yeah.
So y minus plus 4 equal to what? -5/2 x minus 4. You get it right? Wrong? Huh?
First aid items such as Band-Aids, Neosporin for the Bahamas through next Wednesday. Please
I got it right or you got it
I got
right?
it right, yeah.
Okay, what is a normal line?
You're a resident. Have a great afternoon.
It's gonna be 2/5, right? X minus 4. Can the screen see that? Oh, almost. Just cut off.
Wait, did we have to put more than just the slope for these answers?
So this is a tangent line, this is a normal line.
Oh, so you basically just plug in.
Oh, Mr. Rick.
Right there.
Isn't it supposed to be X is our
With?
Or here?
Cause he subtracted this by
Regular lines
one.
are just your tangent lines,
By one, right?
but they're,
No,
they're,
there's 1/2 by
they're
1.
flipped and.
Why didn't you teach us this first?
They're multiplied by negative.
Algebra skills.
Flip and then multiply by negative one.
I would've got on.
That's how negative 5/2 became 2/5. You flip it and then multiply by negative one, became 2/5. See the line.
I put on the.
Plug your stuff.
This class is normally just a
Same,
few
plug in your.
What are you doing, man?
Today.
Stop being annoying.